What is going on, everyone? My name's Boit, and I'm back with some more Age of Mythology of the Titans action. I'm so sorry for those of you who were in the Twitch chat. I did a misfire start. Spawning on the left side of the map in the red color, playing as Thor. His name is Squash. His opponent today in the blue color, playing as Poseidon. His name is DariusTheGreat. I believe this is also known as Blood. Could be wrong about that, but anyways, thanks so much for the tier 1, Mr. Andrew Talavera. Appreciate you. Thank you. The map is Savannah. And this is just a random Voobly ladder game that I saw and I thought was going to be pretty exciting to watch. We got Poseidon, we got Thor, and if you guys know me, you know I love this matchup. On an open map like Savannah, this can be very, very exciting. Lots of action to be had, lots of exposed resources. Woodlines are always kind of far away from a town center, hard to protect. Gold mine is sometimes hard to protect. The starting hunt is normally pretty good, so everyone gets going really fast. You get exposed hunt out here that you have to defend, exposed hunt over here that you have to defend, gold mines that you have to secure and defend, town centers that are normally fairly out in the open, fairly yucky to simply just grab and try and play defensively. It doesn't quite work that well. Over here for our blue Poseidon play, you can see he's got the starting hunt the same way. He's got an exposed wood line here. There is a tower here, and you can potentially wall this off over here, but it is still going to be a raidable source for Squash to look at. The gold mine here also kind of out of the way from the town center, not easy to hit. We've got food over here that is very exposed, but it is next to a town center, so Darius may consider getting this town center. It's not a lot of hunt here though, and he does have his gazelle up the top. We do have the hardest folly here, giving him the extra line of sight for his scouts. This relic normally goes by the wayside. It's only kind of good for, I would say, like Odin with the Ulfsark line of sight. And potentially it's okay for Atlantean as well, because you keep those oracles alive for the majority of the game, but probably not worth grabbing anyways. And we also have this relic over here, the Ring of Nibelung. This one, I always loved this relic when when I was like learning the game, when I played the game, because I was like, oh, 18 free gold a minute, that's heaps. But I had no idea that this isn't, I don't even know if this is even worth one villager here. Anyways, the fun fact about this, and if you actually read the text that Ipit supplied here, you do not want to get this relic, after you have researched a Vault of Erebus, because this means your gold income actually decreases. Luckily for these players, there is no Hades, so does not matter. So, we'll see how this is all going. Got the temple coming up for Squash, nice and defensive. He's just about to finish up on his Rhino. He may move over onto this location. Squash has scouted this out with his goat. You can see how good the scouting from Squash thus far has been. The big problem for Thor, for Thor players in general, is how little scouting they actually get done in the Archaic Age. So, the Valkyrie kind of runs around, doesn't know what it's doing at the start of the game, doesn't know where to attack. And I do recommend most Thor players, if you're wanting to be a strong Thor player, I recommend that you go for double Ulfsark pretty much every single map, or every single land map, simply on the fact that Ulfsark, that second Ulfsark you get, is going to be able to scout the rest of this map out, and that's going to allow you to know where to fight, where to attack, and there's not that much negatives to building the Ulfsark. Obviously, you are reducing your villager count by 1 for 9 seconds or so, but it's definitely worth it to know where to attack. And we do see Squash picking up this relic straight away, going to be putting that one into his temple, and Freya's the god of choice for Squash, and Darius the Great is going through Hermes here. So no surprises here, though I do think that Hermes against Thor more and more is probably more of a mistake than correct. I think against Thor, you want to be thinking about going Ares for the fact that, like, one, the Cyclops is invaluable. It's almost impossible to kill when mixed with Hoplite Toxotes. But we'll see what's going to happen here. I've said time and time again that I think that Poseidon players and Hades players, as well as Zeus players, should probably forgo the stable, probably not go so hard on Hippocon, maybe even not go Hippocon at all, and maybe more gear towards going Hoplite Toxote, even with Poseidon even, just simply on the fact that it lines you up to a very, very easy and simple heroic age, having the Hapaspis down. We do see that Valkyrie is scouting around. Darius sees that one, going to be retreating his villagers. He has finished up on this hunt as well. So we do see the Theseus now walking in, going to put some pressure over onto Squash's villagers over here. The Centaur says, I don't care. I'm going after your villagers. But another Herser in here. This Centaur retreating away. And if we check this Fog of War off, this Squash Valkyrie is chilling over on this side, going to be looking to come into Darius the Great's baits, but Hippolyta is already here, so should be able to repel this Valkyrie fairly easily. We do see that immediate use of the Forest Fire. One villager kill there. That's a pretty rare occurrence. Does give Darius the Great 2 militia, though, that he does manage to keep alive. But killing off one villager that early with Forest Fire, always very, very nice. We will see the Theseus has been picked off here, as well as the Herser of Squash going to be finally retreating back, putting that relic in to his temple, getting a little bit more gold income. So we are seeing double Longhouse right now for Squash, triple Longhouse now for Squash, I should say, and no Herser coming out anymore, as well as the medium cavalry upgrade coming through. Walls now coming down for Darius the Great. He's gone double stable in this situation, and this is actually just perfect for Squash. Squash is going to have a field day with double stable against triple Longhouse here. If Darius the Great's going for some sort of semi-fast heroic, which isn't a bad idea, you can maybe try for, like, say, 10 Hippocon into the heroic age into infantry units instead of staying in with those Hippocon for the entire time as a try, because you also get the Nemean Lion out, and that's going to be able to help deal with those raiding cavalry. Anyways, we do see a raid coming in. Squash reacts very, very quickly as Squash now moving over here, going to be targeting down this gate here. Wants to open up Darius the Great space. Don't want to let him just sit here willy-nilly, allowing him to do whatever he wants, and this will open up, but Darius is already here. He's got himself Hippolyta, Theseus, and a bunch more, but leaving the wall on 7 HP. Very interesting here. The villager's going to come over and repair this. And if you check this out, the entirety of the wall does get repaired. Had Squash attacked this wall segment with 1 raiding cavalry, this wall segment with 1 raiding cavalry, then this entire wall would have been basically on 7 HP. And this repair would only hit this much. So he could have allowed these wall segments to also need to be repaired. But this is actually really good because, funnily enough, repairing the gate takes longer than rebuilding it. It's actually faster for Darius the Great to delete this and rebuild it than it is for him to repair it. So actually rather smart play from Squash, as we do see a raid now coming in for Darius the Great. Going to be hitting these villagers on the backside here. No, decides to retreat away. He's been spotted by the tower. The town center sees it all, and Squash has already got some raiding cavalry just chilling over on this location, as we are seeing Squash now going to try and push through another wall of Darius the Great's, but Darius is already over here. He's already following Squash around very nicely. But again, Squash doesn't necessarily have to kill this. Just doing a ton of damage and pulling back is always fine, but he is breaking through here. Sees the army, decides to retreat away. I love the multiple groups of cavalry currently being employed by both players here, as Squash is leaving a couple of raiding cavalry at home while his forward raiding cavalry group getting absolute work done. And now we are seeing the Dwarven Armory coming up for Squash. He's going to be gearing up to go to the next age. I do like the idea here of Squash cancelling his military. He's going to get himself Thundering Hooves, and this is one, this is because Thundering Hooves is cheaper, 250 food, 50 food less. But I think the most important thing here for Squash is if he's going to be going semi-fast heroic, he needs to continue putting pressure on, soft pressure on, but not utilize it, but not getting caught out. So the Thundering Hooves is going to bring him up to 6.6 speed and is going to allow him to just dart around the map, put pressure on left, right, and center, and then hopefully keep Darius in his base. While Darius, he is continuously training these Hippocon. He's not predicting the cancel of raiding cavalry. He's not predicting anything in terms of a heroic age of Squash. And Squash is going to be hitting like a 10 minute 30 heroic age here. As you can see, his cut villages going to be able to garrison those. There it is, 10, 15, 85 population heroic age. If you guys are Norse players, I would say this build from Squash is invaluable to steal. Come in here, find this recorder game. It's on Voobly at the moment for the next couple of weeks. Find Squash, find this game, and just rote copy this build, and you will have a fantastic time with Thor. So we are seeing the Centaur getting pushed back, the Hippocon getting pushed back here, and Squash coming over with his Raiders. He's going to be looking to hit these ones. He sees the Katoskopos. Definitely want to snipe that one off, as we're going to see Darius attempt to retreat that one away, but only 5.5 speed there and 70 HP. Does lose that one very, very fast. You know, funnily enough, this Scout here with 70 HP, this is probably what the Scout should look like in Age of Empires 4. But the Scout in Age of Empires 4 is like twice as strong as this, plus more. It's very, very peculiar. Anyways, enough Age of Empires 4 shenanigans. We see Skadi coming through for Squash as the God of Choice. Not going through Bragi. No surprises there. Skadi is just simply better. We see the farms are already up for Squash. One thing that I maybe would have liked, instead of Thundering Hooves here, Winter Harvest. Winter Harvest here would have been kind of insanely good. And now he has to wait on the favor. He has to wait on the food. And he's not going to be able to afford it very easily here. And do we see the upgrades through for Squash? He's got himself Pickaxe, he's got himself Husbandry, he's got himself Pig Sticker, and he's got Plow coming through. We'll be seeing Irrigation probably shortly after that as the farms are through. Farms starting to come down now for Darius the Great. Darius the Great should be going through Aphrodite very, very soon here. He is short on the gold, but Darius is full population. We do see a hill fort coming up right now. Nice little cheeky snipe here from Squash. Going to be hitting these units. One thing that Squash probably could consider doing is throwing down a market here instead of the town center in order to buy some food so that he can, one, get heavy cavalry, but two, get some more economic upgrades. But the town center, also a great idea, and he's going to be able to throw a bunch of dwarves over onto this large gold mine anyways, and he is sending his Skraeling up to the top of the map here to chuck that market down. Meanwhile, this fight over here, we are having to see Squash retreat away. Do we have Spirited Charge? No Spirited Charge here from Darius the Great, as Squash is simply just going to be retreating away. No problems. Did lose a Valkyrie, but not really going to be too worried about that, as he's going to be 2 town centers. He's completely fine with his position right now, whereas Darius the Great is kind of all over the shop, going through Aphrodite, 20 villages on food. I think that the idea here, and I like the idea if this is from Darius the Great, is to transfer into infantry here. Go into infantry, making Hoplite Hapaspist, and he might be okay here because he has to start farming. I like the farm placement, actually. It's very, very nice. But he's going to need to put more villagers onto wood if he wants to be able to afford more farms, more military academies and whatnot. But he is starting to get those Supercons. He has got Spirited Charge on the way, but fighting at this stage, very, very risky here from Darius the Great. He's just spent a lot of resources on advancing to the next age, and he's not going to be able to win this fight. He is trying to retreat away, and we will be seeing that Aphrodite hitting very soon with the curse. So that's going to help Darius the Great a lot here, as he does shoot that curse down, and that's going to force Squash back here. And the Frost Giant here gets half HP. That's absolutely huge. Darius at 100 population, Squash at 78 population. We see more Huskarl coming out here for Squash. And here's the thing about Huskarl. They've got decent armor. It's 23% armor. They do 8 damage a second, compared to the Hippocon, which has 10% armor and do 12 damage a second. They actually kind of trade equally in HP and damage per second, funnily enough. So building Huskarl against Hippocon is huge. You can't really keep going Hippocon in this situation because the Hippocon costs more than the Huskarl just based on food, gold, all the other things. And we see Darius the Great going for more stables. This is a confusing thing here. But then again, he is playing Poseidon. It is natural to do that. Anyways, we'll see how this is all going on. Darius going to be trying to push in. Squash doesn't care. He's got 2 town centers. He can sit on this advantage for as long as he wants. He's not actually building villages. There he goes. Starting those dwarves out. Still getting more frost giants. I don't like the frost giants at this point if we haven't got winter harvest. Winter harvest is so much more important than an extra frost giant in this situation. Sometimes it's better to get the frost giant. Sometimes it's better to get winter harvest. This situation, winter harvest is huge. But we're not seeing that. Instead, we are seeing more frost giants. I mean, obviously, he doesn't have the favor for it just yet, but he does have 2 out. And this could have been winter harvest, which means a butt ton of food income. As we are still seeing this Ulfsark up in the top corner of the map here for Squash. He wants to throw the market down and start trading. We might be seeing some attempted Ragnarok here from Squash, simply on the fact that we've got exposed gold mines on Savannah. This gold mine is kind of defendable here, but we do see a market for Darius. So Darius might be considering going to the Mythic Age here, which is definitely a good try. Earthquake is huge against Norse players because their buildings have such low HP. But you can get, if you see this coming, you can get Masons, you can get fortified town centers, while the Mythic Age is coming through, and that way your town center will probably not die. I mean, maybe this one might, but the home one definitely won't with all the buildings around it. So you can definitely survive that earthquake and not take as much damage from it. But Artemis is on the way now for Darius the Great. What is Squash doing in response? I don't see any response just yet. The market is coming up in the corner, but we do see a stray militia over here with 13 HP. We'll be seeing that. The walls all coming up now for Squash. I love that. Preemptively getting these walls up for 2 reasons. One, it makes you feel safe, but the most important thing here is that Chimera raids are really hard to defend here for Thor. They do have the Frost Giant, but the Frost Giant's very slow compared to the Chimera. If you have walls up, doesn't matter. The Chimera take a long time to kill those walls because they don't have any crush damage. So walls are a really, really good counter to Artemis. We'll see if that's going to be something like that. And Tyr is the god of choice here for Squash. I'm surprised to see the Tyr here. We see 3 town center boom. Tyr coming through. No Ragnarok. So no attempt at that, especially because Darius hasn't gotten any Hypaspist out. No military academies at all. We do see Darius getting himself this town center up. And is Squash predicting earthquake? No, still no fortified town centers. The earthquake is going to hurt quite a bit. We see a 4th town center coming down for Squash right now. Squash is basically saying, I don't care. I am just going to be as greedy as I possibly can here. He's 190 or 140 of 145 population. Darius the Great has got his work cut out for him now. He's going to have to deal with about 35 seconds of idle time on his economy. He's going to have to deal with the fact he's down 4 to 2 town centers. We see the earthquake on this town center. He does manage to kill off a hill fort and the town center. We might be seeing frost come down right now. Wouldn't be surprised. Probably not a bad idea. There's the frost onto this location here. That's going to be a very easy thing for Squash to get this town center back up. We see the army moving up for him on this location. No ceasefire just yet by Darius the Great. Wants to hold on to that one. There could be a potential ceasefire of Fimbulwinter here as well, as we are seeing the Chimera walking in here. The Frost Giant immediately turns around onto this one. The special attack does come down, but the Frost Giant hits the Chimera. That is absolutely huge. The Chimera will stay frozen for 20 seconds. If the Frost Giant stays alive, he can immediately freeze it again. This is a dead Chimera here. And there's the Fimbulwinter. Any ceasefire? No ceasefire. Squash holds off on it just to make sure he doesn't get ceased right away. Big brain play from Squash. The amount of times I've seen Fimbulwinter get immediately ceasefired, not very many, but still very good. We do see the wolf spawns coming in here as Darius has to garrison everything here. I don't like using Town Bell when Fimbulwinter is a thing, because this gold mine over here was not attacked at all, so he could have kept mining that one. Meanwhile, all these villagers over here getting sniped down, and Darius is in a very, very tough position here. But Squash has lost all of his units, so Squash is 105 of 180 population in real pain right now. It's starting to make Ulfsarks. But this town center looks like it probably will be falling here, and Squash is in a tough position. He is moving over here onto this gold mine. There's one Hippocon already over here scouting this one out. We see the Hippocon coming over here. Darius has got a potential gold staff opportunity here, but we see heavy infantry coming through now for Squash. He's going to be able to hold this, and that means the units have to retreat away. And Squash will have to think about getting out of Hypaspis, but still no attempt at military academies here in this game. We see the dwarves pushed off of this location. The Vanished Wolfbird will be helping out just a little bit, but not enough. And these ox caravans are coming through, but with only 27 villages on food. Do we have irrigation? We have irrigation. We don't have the flood control or winter harvest, and there are some dwarves on this location as well, so they're very, very slow farmers. So that's why he's very short on food at this point. We are seeing the Hippocon running around very drastically here, as Darius is very much understanding that he can get a gold staff here, but Squash is smart. He is selling wood, he's selling food, making sure he can keep that food, that gold income high. And the fact of the matter is, Squash can throw up another market here, get himself up to trade. He doesn't even need another gold mine here, to be honest. It will just take this game into a little bit of a late game situation. Darius might have time to get this town center up, but Squash will stabilize on that trade route. So we'll see if that's going to happen anytime soon. We do see the Hippocon going after these villages. Nice gate there being created by Squash, pulling back onto this location. Going to be throwing up a bunch of farms over here to get that started. There's the Ulfsark coming over here. Are these Berserker Gang Ulfsark? Not just yet. He's getting more and more favors, still making Frost Giants. I think he should definitely consider canceling Frost Giants for the time being. But the thing is that Darius can definitely get out some more of those Chimera if he so chose, because against the Ulfsark, they're really, really good. We do see a Hippolyta out at this point, as we are seeing the Ulfsark kind of going in against the Hypaspis. The unupgraded Hypaspis, not the best. He does need to definitely consider getting himself medium upgrades, but these Hypaspis do a ton of damage to the Ulfsark, and Darius will win this small engagement here. So we are seeing him continuously pumping out units, and Squash is just essentially saying, look, I don't care. I've got 38 villages on food, and I am making this trade route work. 127 gold a trip. Absolutely huge for Squash. He doesn't care at all. We are seeing there's another Chimera, but there's a Frost Giant out right now for Squash to defend. And Squash right now needs to consider getting out raiding cavalry as well as Ulfsark in order to kind of tank those Hypaspis and everything else. We are seeing the Frost Giant trying to chase down the Chimera, but Hippolyta already targeting this. That's the special ability used by Darius, and he's going to pull back continuously, juke in, juke out at this point. But Squash is now 154 of 180 population. Darius is 107 of 130 with a ton of resources in the bank. He might want to just get a fortress down and make some Heliopoli to attack this town center, but we haven't seen that just yet. There's the fortress coming down now for Darius, so he's going to start doing it now. So we are also seeing a hill fort coming up for Squash. We see the Ulfsark swinging in here as well. There's so many here for Squash, and I think Darius has got to realize he needs to push in and cut this gold right now, because this is where Squash is living. Squash is completely alive here. Darius feels like he was kind of okay here to get a gold star, but Squash was already set up with the trade route, and he doesn't even need a third gold mine. He's had his home gold mine, he's had his second gold mine, and his dwarven gold mine. Plenty enough gold together. We are seeing this Chimera here going to come through, try and get some splash damage done as the Ulfsark swinging around. We'll see the Frost Giant immediately click over onto that Chimera, and again, going to get caught out here while using that special ability. Nice play from Squash to catch that one out, and the flood of Ulfsark is just coming through and absolutely decimating Darius the Great's army here. Darius has got nothing left. He's sitting at 82 of 180 population. And Squash is in an absolute commanding position right now. Squash has got plenty of options here. You can go for a gold staff, hit the gold mine over there. We see the fortress up. The Polyphemus is going to start walking over here and start bashing away at this town center. We see some archery ranges now coming up for DariusTheGreat as an attempt to counter the infantry-based army of Squash, but that's just not going to cut it just yet here for Darius. And this town center falling is going to spell not much of an issue for Squash at all, as he is coming over here already, sending a handful of Ulfsarks onto this location. I would love to see Squash send 1 or 2 Ulfsarks over here to wall this and wall this. Once you are ahead and you have map control, which is what Squash has right now, take away your opponent's potential to make a recovery. And you do that by walling up the map. It's really, really easy with the Norse civilizations because they can build walls with their infantry. We see more archery ranges coming up, but with champion infantry coming in, Squash does manage to take this game. Absolute crispy Thor play here. If you are a Thor, I'll say it again, if you are a Thor player, a Thor enthusiast, or even an Odin enthusiast possibly as well, this game here was close to perfection for the first 10 minutes in terms of macro here from Squash. A 10-15, 85 supply, full rating cavalry based army, semi-fast heroic. This is essentially, this is the bread and butter of Thor. So this is one of the best things you can take a look at. If you guys enjoyed this game, please consider hitting the follow on the Twitch. If you're on the YouTubes, hit that subscribe button, and I'll see you guys in the next game.